So blockchain use cases and applications, right? Based on our early understanding of what a blockchain technology is, then now we should bring on board our understanding of the various applications that actually rely on the use of blockchain. For instance, we looked at maybe Bitcoin, and we saw an example of how we can use Bitcoin uh, within a particular blockchain, right? We saw how to form transactions, we saw how to generate some kind of ledgers, and we looked at various technologies such as peer-to-peer networks. We also looked at distributed systems, more so their characteristics, right? And we agreed that once you have understanding of these key technologies, then it's going to be very, very easy for us to understand how to implement the various applications. And so here we are. We just want to quickly check on some kind of use cases because you are doing some research on these particular applications. So at least that you have an idea of what you need to present or what you need to deliver. So as you can see, there are quite a number of use cases that I want us to look at. When we are talking about blockchain, this is the new kid on the block when it comes to sharing or distributing information. And we talked about trust level, right? Because right now we have, even the internet is a technology that uses peer-to-peer systems, but it lacks trust. And the trust layer is brought about by blockchain. And we saw why a blockchain actually adds trust to these particular technologies or other applications. We saw the need of having some kind of digital signatures, consensus, right? And of course, validation with the other sophisticated systems such as the miners. So this diagram shows some kind of environs or use cases that can use blockchain, and that's what you're researching. Because I've given, we have 6 groups. That means we have more than 10 use cases or applications that we are going to learn from you guys, right? Banking is one industry, or rather one sector that has fully implemented the blockchain technology, and thanks to Bitcoin, right? When it comes to payment or the transfers, right, across the multiple agencies, a bit buying of land, right? I don't know how we do it here in our country, but yes, it's very, very important to ensure that when you use blockchain, you reinforce some kind of security during payments. Even healthcare, law enforcement, voting systems, Internet of Things. And in fact, when we talk about Internet of Things, this is where the main use of blockchain comes in, because Internet of Things, we connect a lot of devices within the world. Like at home, you have different devices that needs to be connected. So you have to ensure that they are secure. You need to ensure that the distribution of information across these particular devices are seamless and transparent, all right? So that when, for example, we are going to look at a smart refrigerator, so that when you want to maybe update maybe some stuff within your refrigerator, it can replicate this particular information, and you can even understand what needs to be done before you go home. Online music, copyright issues, how is it handled using blockchain technology? And of course, the real estate. I think there's a group that is doing some kind of good research. We are waiting to maybe understand more about real estate, how they use blockchain technology. So yes, within the banking industry, what are some of the uses? What are some of the features that the bank have borrowed from blockchain? And there's a question that I asked in class: why is it that maybe in the contrary, why is it that banks don't want to implement this particular technology, right? And we saw the reasons. But we want to understand from this perspective of maybe security. We might not be aware, but there are a lot of hacking that is taking place within our banks. Even right now, I know someone is trying to transfer illegally some funds, right? So when you use blockchain, this kind of makes it a little bit impossible. As you can see how ledgers are formed, right? There are a lot of security mechanisms that need to be put in place. We also looked at whereby it resolves, or rather prevents someone to send, for instance, money that they don't have within the account, right? So before this one happens, people can take advantage of systems. Maybe the system has hung, the system is down, so they can do some kind of duplication, right? So it solves the issue of double spending, right? And it reduces a lot of crises, such as when the system is down, people can't be able to transfer their funds. How long does it take? We looked at this in class. How long does it take to transfer funds, maybe from one friend from a particular continent to the other? It takes a while, right? So it also reduces, blockchain reduces this time factor. So there are a lot of advantages of blockchain in banking industry. Moving forward, also we looked at maybe some of how Bitcoin has been implemented. Better still, we're going to look at Bitcoin and Ethereum and maybe see what are some of the solutions that you can get from the implementation of Bitcoin and replicate it in the use of other application, right? So we have seen that, for example, when you're transferring Bitcoins, because that is the application that can be used to transfer money, there are no charges. Of course there are, but minimal charges compared to bank transfer charges. We don't need to have an account. Once you join a particular chain or network, right, you are validated or you are authorized, you can always be able to proceed with the transactions, right? And we are going to look at cryptography and see how you can hide your details. We say that there's transparency when you're using blockchain, but yes, to some extent, right? Maybe before we finish this particular session, we are going to look at 4 or 3 types of blockchain, right? So we realize that the transparency level that the public blockchain provides is actually different from the transparency level that a particular private blockchain provides. So they're kind of anonymity, right? You are provided with a private key that only you share, with the trusted nodes. And of course, you also have the public key that also you share. So people will see the public key, but when they want to do some transaction, you need to have both the private and the public key, right? So yes, that's another use case. During elections, we have a good use case. I don't know how other countries perform the elections, but there's always an issue all over the world about maybe people stealing elections, voter fraud, foul plays, right? So if you understand, I don't know, when I was in campus, we were told to create or develop some kind of voting systems. So if you understand how elections are normally done, this can be really made to work properly using this particular technology, right? Right from when maybe the user gets to pick a particular candidate and then place their fingerprint somewhere there, and all those particular tasks, right, can be reinforced securely using this particular technology. So we can be seated at home, rest assured that the vote that we cast is going to count at the end of the day without any malpractices, right? In our country, we realize that when we had issues, people are complaining that some kind of information were being converted and so on. So it eradicates this. Yeah. So we can have all the 40 counties having some kind of transparent system that when all those particular voting are being counted, they can be able to see from a particular system. So if there's kind of interference, all the system needs to know who is this that wants to change these figures, right? So that's the main essence of providing, or actually appreciating the use of blockchain. I know there are some countries that have implemented it, but I hope you are going to be there. In banks also, they provide the letter of credit, right? So for example, there are kind of issues when you want to, maybe when the bank wants to give you some money, right? So there are problems, as you can see, yeah. But how is this particular blockchain technology going to help these banks in giving out this particular facility? It will provide a common ledger. We talked about the open ledger, and we said that a ledger simply comprises of the different transactions, right? So if we have a distributed ledger, right, then every participating, be it someone who wants to get the credit, the bank, and everyone, can have some kind of transparency. They can also be able to validate those particular transactions, and this will lead to increase in trust. I think if someone just asks you one advantage of a blockchain technology, even if you don't know anything, you can just tell them that it improves trust in any given system, right? It also improves the speed of execution based on what you have just looked at, right, in the banking sector. The days are really being removed into number of hours, right? And of course, the cost of transaction also is reduced. A better still within the banking industry, maybe in the corporate debt, blockchain provides a common ledger. Underline that, right? So if you have this keyword which keeps on recurring, you need to really understand that the ledger. Sorry. Oh. Okay. No, it's bringing the printer. I think I need to. I just want to highlight some words, so I have to be on the full slideshow. Sorry for that. So that as we mentioned these, so there should be a common ledger. That is a very important thing that you need to understand in all these use cases. Speeds up, right? Elimination of risks, right? Acceleration. Let me just hide these, right? So all these, they're key characteristics of blockchain in all these use cases. Let's look at the other one. Contracts. I know these are different contracts that we are looking at here, but we are going to look at another consensus algorithm that is known as the smart contract, right? So it's the concept that we are trying to look at here, right? When two parties want to form some kind of agreement, maybe the buyer and the seller, right? How can we use the blockchain to really reinforce this? So you can see here, blockchain provides a shared record, right? So every participating individual can be able to get a share, or rather a copy of this particular record, the status, the progress, right? Available, increased efficiency that this particular technology is going to provide when businesses are creating contract. It's going to also help management of risk, right? And of course, there's a near real-time update of all our records. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm just trying to capture your attention to these particular key words, because these are what are going to help us understand the benefits, or rather why we need this particular technology across the various sectors. Then we also have the smart refrigerator. I happen to have mentioned it a while. When we talk about smart refrigerator, it reminds us of the Internet of Things, right? So you can, I think, some household have this particular smart refrigerator. I still don't have it, right? So, but smart refrigerator, look at smart refrigerators as some kind of a smart phone, right? It's a very smart, yeah. So you can always be able to prepare or come up with a recipe. You can monitor or track whatever is within this particular refrigerator, wherever you are, and you can link. Like for example, if you have a product from a particular company within your refrigerator, right? You can always be able to get latest information about that that particular product from your refrigerator. So it's actually a very good technology, but that is just smart refrigerator. What about the blockchain technology? How is it going to play part in this? So we realize that when you have devices that are actually connected to different applications, for instance, you need to do, or you need to manage these automated interactions, right, through blockchain. So you need to understand what is being shared from this particular device to the other device, and so on. When you're ordering and paying for food, again, this particular smart refrigerator can actually give some kind of interface through the blockchain that you can always have, or you can be rest assured that whatever you have ordered is exactly what is going to reach your refrigerator. It adds business value from the connected technology, efficiency, transparency, right? So this is what the blockchain brings on board within the Internet of Things. So I'm not just looking at it as smart refrigerator, because you can also have a smart device, right, that can use this particular technology. Within the industry of supply chain, right? So what is happening right now? Consumers are demanding transparency, right? Ideally, when it comes to supply chain, there is a lot of bureaucracy and there's a lot of hidden information that the end user doesn't really understand, right? So when you use this particular technology, we are rest assured that this transparency will be improved. And of course, there are countries such as the EU that also demand some information. So blockchain here will enable safe digital transfer of property across the end-to-end supply chain. So as you have seen, that is guaranteed. It's going to also offer additional benefits, as you can see. Consumers can make informed purchases, or rather purchase the products that they understand, or make services that they are well conversant with. Governments also will get reliable information, right? And they can also verify any kind of deals that is happening across multiple parties. So three words, or rather three words. Openness, remember the characteristic that you mentioned within the distributed system, right? Trustworthy, and of course, transparency. Again, you can say this keeps on coming, right? So with blockchain, you can have some kind of openness within the systems, within organizations, trust, and of course, transparency. The field of we have aircraft maintenance, right? So we can talk about smart aircrafts being built using this particular blockchain technology. Ideally, it's very, very important. Like, for example, if we have some air crash or this aeroplane crash, something of the sort, and there are parts of the aeroplane that falls apart, maybe after some few or a few years, we can retrieve those parts and link them to a particular aeroplane, and also we can link them to a particular supplier. The originality of a particular part of the plane, right? We can consolidate this information, and that is what we refer to as provenance, right, of each component. So these are very complex. It's like coming up with a new design of an aircraft altogether, right? So we can have concrete information about the different parts. And of course, normally, right now we rely mostly on this black box kind of technology to give us information, right? But with the blockchain, we can actually have a more transparent information about a particular aircraft. It's not only aircraft, any system, be it ship or a vehicle, we can still use this technology. So, in a nutshell, trust is increased, so there's no authority of prevalence, improvement of system utilization. So when all these particular parts of the aircraft, or rather the consolidated systems, work in tandem, then they can improve the resources, or rather utilization of the resources across the system. So it can recall specific. This is what I was trying to maybe explain. So you can really narrow down to the part of the maybe aircraft that had an issue without really demeaning, or rather saying that the whole aircraft has a problem. So I'm just trying to break down to the smallest part of technologies that can use, or other applications of this particular. Online gaming, for the lovers of online game, I won't really take a lot of time here, but what gamers are really experiencing is that there's some kind of problem, right? Like, for example, a game player wants to trade gold earned in current game, right? User experience with the current game to put me ahead and not have to start a call. I don't know how this applies, but yes, it's something that can be cut from by using this particular technology, right? So increased trust. I'm just looking at the characteristics of blockchain: efficiency, right, and transparency. I don't know who can teach you about blockchain and you get it clear the way you're getting it clear here. So we can see it is consistent. All these terminologies or other characteristics of blockchains are really consistent. So up to now, even if someone tells you to do a research on a particular application, at least you should work around looking at the main characteristics of a blockchain technology and what it provides onto that particular given platform, right? Any questions so far? Any question? All right, so I think there's some additional use cases. Okay, other potential use cases that you can look at, and these are very nice research projects or other areas, right? Like cross-currency payment. Like right now in East Africa, we have issues of consolidating and having one East African currency. If we implement a blockchain, then we can forget about these. Real estate records, right? So expect for those of us who are doing the real estate research to give us more insight about this, how this technology is being used, right? So these are other additional, just to name a few. There are quite a number, right? So maybe to go to the specifics, there's this case study, ID pass. Maybe someone can read for us the first paragraph, just the introduction part. Any volunteer about the ID pass, where it is used? Any volunteer, kindly? Just the first paragraph up to refugees, kindly, because it's a given case study happening somewhere.
Excuse me, sir. Where are you reading them from?
You can't see the slide?
On my side,
Yeah,
I'm
we
not
can't.
seeing it.
Yes?
We can't see it. We cannot see it. Yeah, we can see it now.
You can see it now. So what I'll do is
Yeah.
now the problem of you guys is that you don't want to talk. And I told you that with these technologies of ours, you might not get anything. If something is wrong, you just feel free. At this point, you should be very, very concerned with what is happening. Anyway, let me just try to. Okay, so you can maybe, okay. I hope now you can be able to see it again. Can you be able to see it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So just read the first paragraph. ID pass.
ID Pass is a sustainable, open-sourced, blockchain-based digital identity solution. It enables government and humanitarian organizations to issue and verify a decentralized, private, trusted, and recoverable form of identity to all population subsets, including citizens, residents, and refugees.
All right. Thanks. So you realize that this is something that is being implemented, right? So it helps like the humanitarian organizations such as the NGOs just to create some kind of digital identity solution that they can track. You see, normally we have issues with refugees and all these, right? So they can be able to track where they are within a particular country, where they're from. So all these, right, is going to maybe ensure that they can verify, yeah, and better still, the trust from this particular blockchain technology can help them deal away with these issues of trust. So I hope you can be able to. So this is just one case study, the ID pass. We have Eva or Eva. Eva is also another case study. Actually, they employ a particular blockchain protocol, EOSIO, right? I was just researching on this and I found out that they have changed their name to Antelope, right? A blockchain, right? So, what Eva is trying to really achieve, or rather to implement, they have realized that there's some kind of lack of transparency. Maybe when you look at Uber, yeah. So we have different third-party systems that give some kind of, or they act as middlemen between the drivers and the passengers, right? So you can't really know who you are, who is going to drive you, for instance. So it's them that is going to store this particular information. So from what I saw is that they're trying to bring an ecosystem where a passenger can always just get into a system and have the details of the driver and so on and everything, right, without going through the middleman. I think you can see removal of middleman. So this is just something that also the transport industry can implement. We have also the other case study. I was just trying to look at the latest one, GeneOS, right? And this one can be used across different platforms within the healthcare, right? So by using blockchain, all user data can be anonymized and private. This is an issue actually that most healthcare providers face. Yeah, leaking of details of the patient records, right? Other blockchain applications. I'll tell you, we can go on and on talking about this. So we have looked at different use cases. Also, there's some kind of research work that you guys are doing on blockchain and governance, right? We have so far looked at transparency or transparent, or how we can carry out transparent elections, right? And identity theft. These are very rampant kind of cyber security issue where someone can just pick your details, right, from a given office, right, and go and hack your system, right? So it can actually eliminate this particular identity theft. Insurance, payments, and so on. All these are additional applications that blockchain can be able to give solution to. Now, as I promised, we have quite a number of blockchain types. There's one that is missing here, but I'll just explain it, right? So normally there are three, but some organizations, because of their voluminous business processes, might tend to merge two or more. So when two or more blockchain types are merged together, we have a hybrid blockchain, which is missing here, right? So we normally have private, public, and consortium. So a layman's understanding of all these three types or four types: one, public simply means anyone can be able to access. It's like connecting to the internet, right? Then you have the private part of the internet that you need to supply your username or credentials to be able to access, like the intranet, for instance. But with respect to blockchain, the private blockchain can be implemented in an organization setup, such as a bank. Let's say Bank X wants to implement a blockchain technology so that they secure, or rather they make their services transparent. So they can implement a private blockchain, right? Consortium is close to private, but here is where Bank X, Y, and Z, as long as they have similar business processes. So it can be banks, it can be insurance companies, as long as they have almost similar business processes, then they can implement a consortium, a kind of a blockchain. So when you have these three or two combined together, then we can have the third one, which is not mentioned here, and that is the hybrid blockchain type. So should someone ask you to explain the different types of blockchain, then you should be in a position to do that. What we have already looked at, we are trying to come up or identify the various blockchain characteristics, right? So one thing that I mentioned from the onset during our first class is that you need to move away from seeing blockchain as only a Bitcoin solution. So it's not only a financial service technology. It can be used in different sectors, as you have already seen, right? And of course, I've already mentioned about the Internet of Things. So we are living in a world where a lot of services are offered in within multiple environments, right? So this is another characteristic that blockchain comes to cover. So I don't know whether someone has raised their hand. Let me just check. Okay. No, this is someone who wants to be admitted from outside. So what I was saying is that the various characteristics. We also mentioned about how we form a particular blockchain. So we have multiple transactions being appended into some form of ledger. Then you can validate them, and then they form a block, right? And when you replicate this particular ledgers, we talked about having distributed ledgers, right? And when you have distributed ledgers, then we bring on the concept of a distributed database, right? So that at least we can keep track of all replicated data within these different systems. Again, we have looked at blockchain as a technology that offers transparency. I think that is something that everyone should now be able to understand. The security aspect, I've just highlighted it, but you're going to look at it in our next lesson in details and understand how blockchain security really works. Better still, we have looked at, I mentioned the role that the blockchain plays when it comes to preventing other people in altering, right, or editing a particular ledger, because every participating node has a copy of this ledger or transaction. So any interference of any particular ledger must catch or bring the attention of all connected nodes. So if you are a hacker, for example, and you want to change a particular transaction, you need a consensus of 50 plus 1 blockchain members, or what we refer to as the nodes. So that's where the immutable name comes from. So it's very, very hard to really change any part of the blockchain, right? We also looked at the double spend problem, and I really emphasized on that, right? So it also creates some kind of mutual trust between the sender and the receiver, right? Automatically, the system will not allow you to share the information that you don't have, right? And that's where the miners come in. In fact, the miners really help in solving this double spend problem that is realized within the blockchain. I think we have exhausted the benefits, and you can see the cost is handled using this particular blockchain. Trust is improved using this particular blockchain. Transparency, discoverability. Once you connect a device into a secure blockchain, it broadcasts itself, and all these particular devices or other application will understand that there's a new device, or rather there's a new application that needs to be added. So I think that's from my end, that is what I really wanted us to cover. I brought this particular topic close so that at least we can be able to understand the kind of research work that we are doing up to this particular